All right, well, let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining. Just as a reminder, we do this on Discord and on Twitter. You can ask your questions in our AMA questions channel in our Discord. All right, and with that, let's see. First, I wanted to start off by mentioning some things that happened this month and talking about them a bit. So, first of all, we had the Great Unlocking on May 16th. So the staking and locking program for Lifinity flares has ended, and all the locked flares got unlocked. I think more than half have been withdrawn, but there's still a bunch left on the platform. Looking at it right now, there's 840 locked flares and 2,722 staked flares still remaining on the platform and haven't been withdrawn for whatever reason. There's no point in staking or locking now, so everyone should withdraw them. But yeah, that's the current state of things. Um, I did like kind of jokingly mention the idea of like burning all the flares that aren't withdrawn after some certain time period. Um, Obviously, that would benefit like all the other holders who have withdrawn because the supply would shrink by that much. But it's also like a very risky thing to do because potentially you're pissing a ton of people off. Um, but just like theoretically, it seems like it would be totally reasonable if you say we're going to do this 1 year later, and you give warnings about it every month leading up to the 1 year date. And in the last month, you give warnings every week. And in the last week, you give warnings every day. And if like people still don't withdraw, I don't know, it seems like you've given them sufficient warning and they are to blame. Um yeah, but it does like kind of seem a bit malicious in nature. I'm not aware of any initiatives like this in any other NFT project. Um, yeah, curious if anyone knows about any. The one reason we'd want to do this that I can think of is that we have to keep the website up, which like isn't a huge deal, but it would kind of suck to have to keep it up in perpetuity just because, five people haven't withdrawn yet or something like that. So yeah, there is a small incentive for us to want to not have to keep the site up forever. But yeah, that's about it, at least that I can think of right now. Anyways, that was just, for the most part, that's just like a theoretical idea. Let me know what you think. Another thing that happened was we carried out the proposal to burn 500 flares. Um, yeah, so I am so happy that that is over with. So happy. Um, but I think also we can we can say pretty clearly now that it was a total nothing burger. It didn't benefit players at all in any noticeable way, anyways. It certainly made some holders happy, but that happiness doesn't lead to any value accrual. There wasn't any extra buying pressure. There wasn't any noticeable increase in our user base or chatter on Twitter. And there were clear downsides. Our market cap decreased by 1/20th, and you can see that in the rankings. We just like instantly fell a number of spots in the rankings. And Flare DAO is that much the less richer. It has fewer assets it can work with now. So I hope that the people who are in favor of birding reconsider, because it's still totally unclear to me what the benefit of this is. All right, well, that's another thing. And then we had the new buyout proposal and discussion in the Lifinity governance channel under the title "The Great Merging." So the basic idea here is that we want to merge Flare DAO and Lifinity DAO. This would come with a number of benefits to all parties involved, but the tricky part is determining what the fair price for the buyout should be. It's extremely tricky because like people are going to be biased in whichever direction they have more exposure in. If you have more flares, you probably want a greater discount on the Lifinity that Flare DAO would acquire. And vice versa, if you're a Lifinity DAO, or you have more Lifinity than you have flares. So, yeah, it's a tricky discussion, but I really hope we are able to find a deal that's satisfactory for both parties. Yeah, the discussion is slowly but gradually moving forward, I think. But it's also like it takes some time to be able to fully understand what the hell is going on with this proposal. And understandably, not everyone wants to put in the time to be able to fully understand it. So that's kind of unfortunate. It's hard for people to make an informed decision without putting in the time, and people generally don't want to put in the time. But yeah, not much you can do about that. Anyways, I encourage everyone to go check that out. Let's see. Then finally, we announced 2 new V2 pools. And thankfully, people seemed okay with the idea of us having a small amount of exposure to the tokens. I'm blanking. It was HNT and what was the other one? GMT, of course. Yeah, so that's good to see. Actually, we actually have more V2 pools that we're testing. Let's see, what were we testing? Of course, there's the ETH V2 one, but we started that a long time ago. We actually opened a WBTC pool, a Jito Sol UXD pool at the request of UXD protocol. And then 2 more that I'm blanking on. Oh well, I will get back to that. But yeah, we're like we're in go mode right now, opening a ton of new pools. All right, well, that's all I wanted to talk about in the intro. So getting to the questions, yeah, J Sweats, I assume yeah, I'm not going to rehash our little back and forth. Hope you don't mind. So Penalty Box asks, any guess when your team will allow increase in the Flare buyback pace now that NFT price is heading below intrinsic value? The buyback wallet continues to hold 1,000 plus SOL for seemingly no reason. What's the deal with that? So let's see. We have increased the pace. We actually increased it quite a while ago, and I believe we mentioned it. Although maybe we didn't announce it, but definitely mentioned it in the chat. Yeah, and if you look at the SOL in the buyback wallet, it has begun going down. You mentioned this 1,000 plus SOL threshold. It seems arbitrary to me. Like, it's not as if we have the optimal amount of SOL that the buyback wallet should have at any given time. So I think because historically, before that proposal where all the revenue was, instead of 50%, 100% of revenue was sent to the buyback wallet for a period of 6 weeks. Before that, the buyback wallet, I think, never went past 1,000 SOL. So then people looking at that now are like, why is there so much SOL? When actually, that makes total sense. Like, assuming we don't change the buyback rate, if you just add more SOL for a period and then it goes past 1,000 SOL, well, then if you don't change the rate, then obviously it's going to stay above 1,000. And that's why for a period it was above 1,000 and it still is. But we did increase the buyback rate, and so now that amount is going down. Although, of course, that is conditional. Like, that's also dependent on how much revenue we earn. If in a certain month we become like uber profitable and just have a giant influx of SOL, then that could be greater even than the amount of SOL that we spend. So who knows? But yeah. So TLDR, we have increased the buyback pace. I'm sorry, it does not fit your model or your image, your ideal pace. I don't know what your ideal pace is, but I mean, like, here's one way to think about this. The current situation is awesome because if we had increased the pace much more 2 months ago, for example, when, if I remember correctly, that was when people were asking for it. Maybe it was a bit longer ago or something. I don't remember exactly. But if we had increased it much more back then, when the price of flares was higher, then we would have bought much more flares back then when the price was higher. Whereas now the price is lower. And so it's pretty great that we still have a shit ton of SOL to do buybacks with. And of course, the counter argument I can hear in my head already is, well, we're below intrinsic value right now, or at least I think we are. So you should be buying back at an insane pace right now. But it's not that simple either, because the truth is, just because we're below intrinsic value doesn't mean we're guaranteed to be up only from here. Like, we could still go even lower. Who knows? Like I just mentioned earlier, there's still like 3,500 flares in the staking and locking program still. And if it was up only from intrinsic value, then why are we even below intrinsic value? Where are these buyers? So we could go even lower. And if we go even lower, then we're even in a better position to do more buybacks at that lower price. So yeah, I mean, so you just have to keep in mind that like we just don't know. We just don't know where price is gonna go. And so like the people who are saying, "Oh, you should be doing like so much more buybacks 2 months ago," well, they were kind of wrong. Looking at it from the perspective of where we are today, so who knows about what you're saying right now? Um, all in all, I just feel like this is not really something we need to worry about. Like the buyback bot will do its thing, and yeah, and there's only like so much we can do because we just can't predict where price is going. If we knew where price is going, well, we would know the exact perfect time to buy. But unfortunately, we don't. So, the relatively simple strategy of just like keep buying a certain amount during a certain amount of time and adjust it a little bit based on the current price. Like that works pretty fucking well, I would say. So, yeah, just trust the buyback bot. At least that's my take on it. All right. And with that, we are out of questions. Yeah, not many questions today. Even though it seems like a lot has happened in the past month. Let's see. We got Ronnie, Trader B, just me in the audience. How's it going, guys? You guys got any questions? Because there's no one on Twitter. It is just you three. And I am out of things to talk about. For those who may have looked at the Great Merging before, um, the uh, the buyout sheet that I prepared has evolved quite a bit from its original form. There's now a lot more data in that, so I would encourage you to take another look. It'll give you much greater perspective on um, what discount you personally will find to be fair. And it'd be great to hear um, your thoughts on it. I want to hear everyone's thoughts on it. So, yep. Just me says thanks for your time. No problem. I'm kind of at a loss for what to do because usually we don't run out of questions this early. But here we are. I mean, I guess that's fine. Like, it's not like we need to do it for an hour every single time. If there's no questions, there's no questions. Like, that's cool. No need to force it. Obviously, I'm always happy to answer questions whenever, even if it's not an AMA. So, uh, yeah, people can hit me up in the chat whenever they want. Cool. Let's see. Trader B says, "Is there a time limit for completing the merging deal?" There isn't. Um, it only depends on Lifinity DAO and Flare DAO being able to come to an agreement. So yeah, whenever that happens, and that may not be in the near future, who knows? But there is no like constraint. There is no time constraint. Um, like it could even be after the team emissions are complete, for example. You could still do a deal after that. And it wouldn't really make a difference. I mean, obviously, like it would make a difference to like what discount is reasonable, but it doesn't. It's not a hindrance in any way for a deal. So yeah, no time limit. All right. Well, cool. I guess I'm just gonna call it. Thanks for showing up, guys. Even if it was just a listen. Always great to have you here. And see you around in the chat. Till next time.